who awakens? Who is the one who opens consciousness, awakens or enlightens? Also, we will look at the core identity. What is the identity itself? So there is a saying that I was looking for God and I found myself, or I was looking for myself and I found God. At the same time, Buddhists have beautifully discovered that there's no real or specific ego or the I or myself. They call it the nature of emptiness. That when you look deeply enough into your identity, you find no one there. At the end of the day, this I or myself is a certain formation, a certain appearance. It is a certain bundle of energies and conditioning, and where that bundle crudifies, becomes like a knot, and that's where you derive the sense of myself from, which happens very mechanically, very fast. It is known that for that sense of myself to arise, it takes only half a second. So as you wake up in the morning, your consciousness, your awareness shines through, and in half of a second, there is an overlay. Your open, vast consciousness gets overlaid or hijacked by the matrix of the I or myself. And this I and myself then claims all experiences to be my own. What an interesting situation. That every experience, since it arises, it claims it. That's where this identity formation came from. And of course, humanity doesn't have much options, so everybody accepts that to be as normal. And they live their lives half real, because one half is real, but the other half is claimed by the I or myself. And this I, myself, never feels good in reality. Even if it feels okay, it feels the best when it's most quiet. But it's a bit like a tiger or a wild cat that you never know when it will scratch you. So the I, myself, is a bundle of conditioning, fixations, a bundle of energies, disharmonious, which are attached to the causal body. And as you go through various levels of consciousness, what happens is that you gain more capacity to be beyond or to manage that ego I better and better, less reactive, less resistant, surrounding it with your presence, seeing it clearly in your awareness. Dismantling the associated structures, because so many structures get built upon this I, myself. So this is the spiritual path has exciting part and a difficult part. Exciting part is opening new light, bigger love, discovering new horizons, more and more greater expanses. And the difficult part is dismantling of the old. Ego knocks at the door, there's nobody there. In reality. So this is what everyone in one way or another way struggles with. And it's very tricky. Just because one comes to some sort of acceptance and okayness with what is now, it doesn't mean that in the shadows the ego is not hiding. Beautifully, at first, ego is very big troublemaker. On the spiritual path, you bruise around with it, and then it becomes more cooperative. Because in the biggest sense, it cooperates because there is opportunity for more love and bliss and happiness. But then the ego self can become too good of a friend. So it becomes a good friend and even a best friend as long as you don't touch certain buttons. It will cooperate with you and help you on your spiritual path of the next great adventure. As long as you don't push certain buttons, as long as you don't look at certain shadows, it's gonna be fine. When we go to higher levels of consciousness, our aim becomes to unroot it, uproot it. Like the weeds in the garden, just because you cut them on the surface doesn't mean they won't come back after a few days of rain. So even if it becomes a good friend, you increase your capacity furthermore to be able to see it deeper to access deeper layers of the core of your identity. And at some point it gets very tricky, because the core of your identity is what you know, what you are familiar with, what you are comfortable with. And then it's very difficult for the mind to imagine how would you be without the mind. How would you be without a sense of identity? How would you defend yourself if you stand in the queue and somebody jumps in front of you? This is the usual explanation that you still need your ego. But yes, it is possible to live without it, to be without it, and to realize that there is a difference between mind and thoughts. Thoughts are not a problem in themselves, because they are like little ripples on the ocean that simply express the waves of the ocean. Of course, obscuring thoughts that grab your attention and are out of control are not good, because they have power over you to grab your attention, to take control over you. So these kind of thoughts, you have to learn to be beyond them. But other kinds of thoughts which simply explain something here or there, they simply point at what is happening at the deeper level of the ocean. And that's not a problem. They usually do not interfere so much. They're here actually to assist you to go deeper, to become more aware of what is deeper. So thus, thoughts themselves are not really a problem. And at the end of the day, in the awakening of your natural self, you'll come to realize that what is a problem? Only I can make myself problems, or assume something to be a problem for myself. And as you abide in an ever more natural, open way of being, you witness how the waves arise. The waves of the universe, the waves of the cosmos, the waves of energies, and they create ripples of certain thoughts. There is always something new happening. So that's why you cannot expect that it will always be stillness. It's easy to meditate and be peaceful in stillness. It's much more difficult to be peaceful in movement. So natural self, in other words, full consciousness, you can be yourself even with the dance of the universe, coming to this large openness and your full consciousness. You mature through the process of your energetic movements, of your psychological movements, and all the new things that, or new experiences that every day brings. So in the free flow of the creation, the obstacle that we face is our own identity, the core of me or myself. Because in the deeper sense, the core of identity is a point of resistance. So this I or myself, it resists what it doesn't like, it resists what is difficult, it resists the flow of the universe. Deeper energies are coming through, and the I myself is kicking back and making a drama. So we could see that the core of identity is a certain resistance. And then, of course, since there is a resistance, sometimes you need to defend yourself. Why you're resisting? Even when somebody gives a good advice. And then arguments arise. But if there is no resistance, and there is nobody to defend, if the boat is empty, then who is arguing with whom? Who is fighting with whom? And that's why the ego self, or personality, from Latin, is called a mask. Persona is a mask. The core of identity can be altered. It can be shifted into various altered states. For example, into the heart, into love, in the heart chakra, which is wonderful for a while, but after a year or two, it becomes another point of resistance. Typically, people start expressing their truths and not caring about anybody else. That's how this love turns out to be, by observing the spiritual circles. You can shift the core of identity into unity or planetary consciousness, where you feel the interconnectedness of all living beings, which is really beautiful. But there is a higher intelligence which then points out deep-seated wounds of separation, which is the opposite of oneness or unity. You see, this is why the universe brings up something, because it knows that it is not the end, it is not the true identity, it is an altered core identity. Similarly, when a yogi opens up to cosmic consciousness, there is a vast expanse which is now capable to manage the flows of energies and dualities much better. But even the cosmos is a container. Even the vastness of the cosmos actually is a limited space. So therefore, even that core of identity is not the real self. Shifting your core identity, for example, to universal consciousness or universal God consciousness, a bigger challenge on the higher stages of consciousness are not the bad things anymore, are the good things become a challenge. Because they're so tempting. And this is quite elaborately described in many traditions. There are heavens and realms of devas and goddesses and gods, which can be so alluring and so tempting and so powerful and so immense. But even all of them come from somewhere. They all manifested somehow, came into existence somehow. So there must be a deeper home, a birthplace of all. And no, it's not Shiva, and no, it's not Brahman, and not Vishnu either, because we know that all of them, they have a mother, Goddess Durga, and a father, Lord Brahm. And even Lord Brahm and Goddess Durga have their origin further above. So therefore, shifting your core of identity, the ego self becomes your friend. Then it becomes too good of a friend, like a sticky friend. And then you have to keep some distance and discover why it's still here. Why the sense of I, myself, still persists? There must be a reason for that. And yes, looking into those shadows, into those unloved places, long abandoned places, or things you thought you already resolved long time ago, going back to the basics, back to common sense, which many forget along the spiritual path, is how we can then unroot the remaining fixations, abidances of shadows. And typically they will have a story they will resound with something deeply personal and deeply long time forgotten. So there is a way to see them and to access them. So thus the spiritual path is beautiful and challenging. But at the end of the day, what awaits at the true divine home is boundless treasures beyond everything and anything ever imagined. Because nothing in the nature of 5 elements, nothing in the nature of ether, nothing in the nature of creation, spaces, cosmos, universes ever comes even close to the treasures of divine.